So Mike Johnson is the Speaker of the House this morning. The question is, will he be Speaker tonight? We are standing by for the vote that could cost him his job. His biggest problem is math. Republicans hold one of the slimmest majorities ever, and if 2 Republicans vote against him, that could cost him everything and cost President-elect Trump something too. One Republican has already said he is a hell no, that he would still vote against Johnson even if you pulled out his fingernails, which seems like a pretty serious political position there. Let's get to Lauren Fox live on Capitol Hill counting the votes this morning. Jim Jordan right there behind you smiling to our camera. So where is he? Where is everyone on this vote this morning?
Yeah, good morning, John. I mean, we are waiting to see what this vote count is going to be in just a couple of hours, but you can expect that Speaker Mike Johnson is going to be working the phones, working members in his office as he is trying to get the votes, secure the votes that he needs in order to clinch that gavel once again just after noon today. Now, we expect that there could be a series of holdouts, and allies of Speaker Johnson have been preparing for the possibility that this could go multiple rounds. Just remember, back in 2023, 2 years ago, then Kevin McCarthy, who became the eventual speaker, he had to go 15 rounds to get that job. It was a 5-day battle to get the speaker's gavel, but we are waiting to see whether or not Speaker Mike Johnson is going to be able to do this in the first round. Yesterday on Fox News around 4 o'clock, Johnson was being pretty optimistic, saying he thought that they could get there in a single round of votes, saying he thought that he would be okay today. But we should just note, there's already one hard no, and that is Representative Thomas Massie of Kentucky. Here he is.
I am the one hell no. You know, they say there's up to 5 or 6 who may be voting no. You can count on me to be a no. You can pull all my fingernails out. You can shove bamboo up in them. You can start cutting off my fingers. I am not voting for Mike Johnson.
And a couple of other Republicans to watch really closely this morning. Representative Chip Roy, who is a Republican from Texas, he has been demanding some structural changes to how Johnson does business in the House. We are also awaiting whether or not Representative Victoria Spartz would get to yes on Speaker Mike Johnson. She's another one who says that she wants concrete demands to be answered from the Speaker of the House. I should note that earlier this week, Donald Trump, the incoming president, made clear that he is standing with Speaker Mike Johnson, and that is weighing on some of the remaining holdouts. I talked to Representative Tim Burchett yesterday, who still had not made up his mind definitively, but he made clear to me that Trump's support for Mike Johnson was not something that members could simply ignore. John?
Yeah, we will see if anyone joins Thomas Massie in the fingernail caucus this morning. I mean, even one member joining him on the first vote could cost Johnson the job, or at least make it deeply uncomfortable for him.
Kentucky Republican Thomas Massie has been saying he will not vote for Johnson. Of course, the Trump-backed speaker can't afford to lose the support of any other Republican if all members are voting today. President Trump, whose election victory certification could be delayed if a prolonged speaker battle ensues, seems to have relative little appetite for the drama, agreeing to personally call any Johnson holdouts ahead of the vote. One of those holdouts saying the key to re-electing Johnson as Speaker is simple.
There are some folks who have concerns and have not committed to vote for Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House. I believe that there is one thing that can secure Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House for the 119th, and that is by bringing us together and selecting Chip Roy to be the chairman of the Rules Committee.
All right, our panel has returned. That, of course, was the voice of Lauren Boebert, who has been willing to take on leadership at various different points. So, Mike, we were talking about this a little bit earlier in the show. Here's what our Stephen Collinson, who tends to write paint our big pictures every day here at CNN. He says this, quote, House Speaker elections on Friday, less about Mike Johnson, more about Donald Trump. If Trump fails to lift Johnson over the line, he'll sow new doubts about his capacity to effectively lead the GOP trifecta of power in the House, Senate, and White House. Time is short. New presidents have limited time to enact their program, with midterm elections always looming. The GOP's shaky unity and tough fights to come make Trump's window even smaller. It does seem like if Johnson doesn't get this together, it says as much about Trump as Johnson. I mean, this is tough for him potentially.
There's some truth to that, but I think the major point there is speed. I mean, there is a lot ready to go on the agenda for Donald Trump, the Republican-controlled Senate, and the Republican-controlled House. So all of this, if we have all of this delay out of the gate, it is going to push back almost all of the Trump agenda. So absolutely, there's a lot there going on. The one thing, though, that was mentioned, I really want to point out, is almost more important than the Johnson vote is who is in charge of the Rules Committee. What makes it to the floor? How does it get to the floor? What parts of the legislation are going to be voted on? If Johnson gives the Rules Committee, if he does not control rules, he wins the speakership, but doesn't control rules, this entire Trump agenda is going to be delayed.
Yeah, fair enough. Although we are getting a little bit down into the weeds on that. I absolutely take your point.
Is it too early in the morning for getting into the weeds?
For the
I'm
rules,
sorry.
well, he's got to get the gavel first.
He's got to get the gavel first, but it's so vitally important. I mean, there's so many moving parts to this. That's what I'm trying to.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I want to. Our team dug up this interview that Mike Johnson did in a Louisiana with a Louisiana radio station, and this interview was aired. It was conducted December 31st, so New Year's Eve, which I mentioned just because he talks about the timeline of his calls with Donald Trump. But basically, he got on the horn with the president-elect and said, hey, I need a little bit more help from you sooner. Watch this.
He was going to endorse from the very beginning, but his plan was he had an idea. I'm going to be with him at Mar-a-Lago on New Year's Day. We're going to map out some strategy, and he wanted to take photos and do a big endorsement on that day. And I called him yesterday. I said, Mr. President, just let's go ahead and do that. Get it out there. So he did.
So Johnson apparently aware he needed a little help.
Yeah, this is not a position of strength for the new speaker coming in, right? And it is also, I think, importantly for what going forward would be if he wins this vote, and eventually, whenever it happens, if it does, that he will not be the one calling the shots, really, about how things go in Congress. Even though he will be the Speaker of the House, it will be Donald Trump, which is not a shock given how Donald Trump has exerted his influence over the Republican Party over the last 8 years and the years to come now that he's coming back to the White House. But it's still an amazing thing to have a co-equal branch of the government that is completely in the sway of the president.
And he's probably better off trying to hold the line on making the argument to the far right discontents in Congress that he will be the loyal Trump foot soldier rather than making some of these process, promises that are essentially like pulling a loaded gun close to him. It seems risky.
3 seconds.
Well, I think the problem that he has is that Donald Trump doesn't want to be the Speaker of the House. If you had a Donald Trump who was going to be out there and say, I want this bill and this bill, I want it written in this way, I want these committees, I want so and so and so and so, they would do it. But Trump does not engage with Congress on that level, and that makes Mike Johnson's job that much harder.